What you're looking at here is the Martin Yale 1217A paper folding machine. This particular paper folder is one of our entry-level machines that actually uses the conveyor system, which are these series of belts that actually take the paper out of the machine after the paper is folded. The 1217A has a motor that runs at 10,300 pieces per hour. Now that is the speed of the motor itself, not necessarily how many sheets of paper it can do per hour. And you'll want to take that into consideration because many people see the motor speed and automatically assume that that must be the speed the paper folder can run. I would not recommend running that many sheets of paper through this, as this is an entry-level machine. Entry-level meaning that it's great for medium to low volume paper folding. If you are going to be doing industrial paper folding, I'd recommend going to something that's a little bit higher end. It is a good all-around paper folder though. It can handle paper as small as 18 pound, which is very close to your standard copy paper, all the way up to 90-pound cardstock. It can handle a wide variety of paper types. It does not work with glossy paper, and the reason being is that it does have a friction roller that as it's spinning it grabs onto the paper and pulls it in. Glossy paper is just too slick. The roller cannot grab onto it, and it will slip around inside the machine and more than likely create a paper jam. Now this machine does use two folding plates, one folding plate being up here, and it can be slid out, and one paper on the bottom as well that can be slid out. This top tray, however, does require that some screws be loosened if you are going to pull it out, and the only reason you need to pull it out is in the event of a paper jam. Now the back folding plate, which is significantly smaller, does need to be pulled out if you're doing a single fold, because you need to actually block this plate off by flipping it around, and that will allow you to do a single fold. Now on the paper folding plate, you'll notice a series of letters. Actually, you might be able to see it better if I turn it this way. You'll see a series of letters and measurements. And this is to help you get an idea as to where you need to adjust the folding plate. The way you adjust it is you actually loosen these screws right here. That allows this folding plate right here to slide up and down, and you can adjust it depending on the fold you want to do. Now you can tell where you need to adjust it by looking at the exit tray here. Now this machine will work with various sizes of paper, 8.5 by 11, 8.5 by 14 legal, and 11 by 17, including A4 and A3 paper. Now, if you're working with 8.5 by 11, which is what 90% of the people using a folder will be using, you'll look on this left column here. Now the fold types can be seen here. This being a C fold, a Z fold, a double parallel, and a single fold. And the first plate needs to be adjusted to A if you're doing a C fold, and the second plate needs to be adjusted to S, which is why you see the letters on the plate. Now, once you get a fold set the way you want it, say for instance we're doing an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, doing a C fold, we're going to want this to be set to the S, which you can see right here and right here. And you're basically going to want the plate right here where it turns into a point to actually line up with the S. And when you have that, just tighten the screw down. Same on the other side. Tighten that down. And this plate right here, plate 2, is now set for a C fold for 8.5 by 11 paper. And that just slides back into the machine. When you put the plate back in, you'll notice a bar here, and there's a bar a little farther up. And you'll notice that there are a couple of notches on the folding plate, and those notches basically just rest over that bar. And that's what holds the folding plate in place. Now it's in there securely. Now we've adjusted plate 2, we will also need to adjust plate 1. So for a C fold, the first plate needs to be set to A. So I will loosen both of these screws. Now if you look on here, you'll see that the A is right here. So again, just slide this down until you hit the line that the A rests on. Tighten up the folding plate. And you're going to want to make sure that the folding plate is fairly level and in line on both sides. Otherwise you'll notice the paper coming out will be crooked, it won't be straightened up. And if you notice that it's not exactly the way you want it, it's very easy to fine-tune this machine. It's just a matter of loosening those screws back up, sliding it, turning it a little bit until you get the fold exactly the way you want. And just because the paper folder says it does C-fold, Z-fold, double parallel, and a single fold, doesn't mean that you have to do that to the T. This is customizable. You can adjust these folding plates pretty much anywhere along here to create your own custom fold, which is kind of nice. Now, paper folders are commonly used in schools, they're commonly used in print shops, copy shops, and they're used a lot by businesses as well for mailers, for invoices, for a wide variety of projects. Now that we have the folding plate 1 and the folding plate 2 set up, we're going to want to look at this exit tray. There's actually a set of wheels here that actually slow the paper down as it's being shot out of the machine. And that keeps the paper in order, so if you're, for instance, folding invoices, it will keep everything in order, in the same order that you put it into the machine. And that's especially nice for some people. Some of the entry-level folders will just shoot them into a catch tray, and they won't be in any particular order. Now, in order for the exit tray to function properly, you'll notice there are several different fold types here. And if you lift up this plastic flap, you can see 8.5 by 11 in A4, legal, and 11 by 17 in A3. Now, we're using 8.5 by 11, and we are doing a C fold, which is right here. So this right here actually slides along this bar. You're just going to want to make sure that when that is slid up, that the center of the wheel right there lines up with the arrow pertaining to the fold that you will be doing. And that's how you adjust that. Now, the Martin Yale 1217A has a jog mode, where as long as you hold the button down, it will fold, but as soon as you let up on the button, it stops the machine. It has a continuous mode. Push it to the right, and the machine keeps going until you flip the switch back to center position. It also has a reverse mode, which can be enabled by pushing the jog mode and the reverse button at the same time, and that makes the motor run in reverse. The nice thing about that is if it pulls paper into the machine, and for any reason it jams, you can reverse that paper back out. It makes it a lot easier to clear out paper jams. Another thing you want to take into consideration is that this does use rubber rollers, one up here to pull the paper into the machine, and then in here, which you can't see very well right now because of the folding plate, but there are several large rubber rollers inside the machine. And again, you can remove this. It does have to be loosened here, and that plate will slide out. But I recommend cleaning those rollers off every so often because dust will accumulate, ink will accumulate from the paper you're folding, and it will just prolong the life of those rollers. They're very expensive to replace. The roller cleaner rejuvenator will actually keep them moist, will prevent them from cracking, and will allow you to clean the roller. We also sell some static eliminator. If you notice that sheets are sticking together as they're being pulled into the paper folder, that might fix the problem. You actually just put some of that on the rollers as well, and that cuts down on static electricity. Now, underneath here, underneath the feed tray, there are a series of 4 screws, which you can see right here. They are white. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just turn that counterclockwise, and that will allow the feed tray to be adjusted. So if you're using 11 by 17 paper, you'll want to slide those out until it accommodates the larger paper. We will be using just standard 8.5 by 11, and so I recommend just sliding those in pretty much until the center of the paper rests on this wheel right here that actually pulls the paper into the machine. So once you have those side guides adjusted, and you want to give it a little bit of room so that it doesn't hold onto the paper and keep it from being pulled in, just tighten those back up on the bottom, turning them clockwise, and you're good to go. Now, the 1217A paper folder, unlike some of the higher-end models, does not have a retractable feed tray, which means the feed tray does not dip down, allowing you to put the paper in. And because it does not do that, you actually need to fan the paper. Now, it is a top-grabbing friction roller, so you'll want to just basically square the paper up. I recommend just pinching one of the ends, kind of turning it down to a U, pinch one end, and that will fan the paper, which basically just lines the paper up at an angle, allowing the roller to pull the top sheet. So I'll set that down into the paper folder, and it's now ready to pull the paper into the machine. Now, there are also adjustments you can do on the friction roller if for any reason it's not pulling the paper in, or it's pulling too many sheets of paper into the machine. If you look down here, here's what's known as a retarder wheel, and you can loosen that up and tighten it up. That just adjusts the amount of pressure that's put on the friction roller. Now I'm going to jog the paper to make sure everything's set correctly. And everything appears to be running okay. So now I can put the machine into continuous operation. Now let's change the fold. The paper is very easy to remove. If any paper is still underneath the rollers here, that can be lifted up, allowing you to grab all the paper and pull it out of the machine. Now we are going to do what's known as a single fold, which means the 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper is going to be folded just once, folded in half. So for a single fold, the second folding table needs to be turned around, blocking it off. So I'll take this out, and as I mentioned before, I'm turning it around, and now the opening on the folding plate has been completely closed off. So I'll now slide that into the machine, lock it and lock it into place. And you pretty much know it's locked into place. When you tug on it, it won't come out, and it locks in place pretty well. Now, tray 1, we're going to need to set on the letter C, which is right here. So I'll loosen this up and slide the folding plate down until it rests on C. Tighten that side up, and tighten this other side up. Okay, now we're almost done setting the paper folder up for single fold paper. The last adjustment we need to make is adjust the wheel here that's on the conveyor belt. It needs to be pulled out to this marker because it is 8.5 by 11 paper and we're doing a single fold, so I'll pull this out until that center portion of the wheel, the center bar, lines up with that arrow. I'll jog the paper and let's see how it looks. And it appears it is folding the paper properly, so now I can switch it over to continuous mode. So there you have it, the 1217A paper folder. It's a very effective machine for low to mid-volume paper folding. It can handle anything from 3.5 by 4 inches up to 11 3/4 by 18. It's very easy to set up once you understand how the folding plates work, and it will work for most small to medium business applications.